Hey, there it's me Eden. If you are new to the channel then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks. I had some impulse to run away, but I daren't move because I wasn't yet used to the knee-length boots I had been made to wear. Nikki was coming towards me with a small plastic bag full of jewelry that she obviously intended me to wear as well. I tell you what, suggested Anita, why don't we sort that out in the kitchen? I'll make us all a cup of coffee while we're doing it. Good idea, agreed Nikki, and they walked out into the hall and off to the kitchen. I remained rooted to the spot, not wanting to test my ability to walk in the boots. Obviously they quickly noticed my absence. Come on Steve, what's the matter? Asked Nikki, coming back to the living room door. Nothing, I mumbled in reply, and taking a sigh to gear myself to begin, I felt my bra hold back the expansion of my chest. Very carefully, I began to walk forward. It was a little easier than I had feared, and I managed to make it to the door without falling over, which I viewed as a success. You don't look very natural walking like that, Nikki observed, with something of a sneer. We're going to have to improve on that before the contest, that's for sure. Improve on what? Asked Anita from the kitchen. The way he walks. He's walking like a duck, Nikki commented unkindly, while laughing. It's not my fault, it's these high heels you've put me in. I snapped. They're not that high. Nikki responded. Only about an inch or two. You should try walking in 6-inch heels. Yeah, agreed Anita. Then you'd know what high means. I rather petulantly walked down the hallway into the kitchen, moving perhaps a little easier than I had before. The kitchen was bright and clean, if a little narrow, and the light shone through a window at the back by the sink. Take a seat, said Anita, gesturing carelessly towards the high stools along one wall where there was a breakfast bar. I looked at the tall tubular shape and considered how I might be able to mount it without another knickers show. It seemed an impossible task. Do you take sugar? She asked, taking 3 cups from a cupboard. No, I replied. Me neither, added Nikki. Anita waited until the steel kettle had boiled, and then poured water into 3 mugs. The pleasant smell of fresh coffee filled the room. She slid the cups gently along the kitchen side for Nikki and me. Well, shall we get on? She suggested. Yes, agreed Nikki, sit yourself onto one of the stools Steve, and we'll see what we've got. I stared at the stool. In my tight little skirt and boots it might as well have been a mountain for all that I thought I could climb it. To add to my dismay, Anita, in her jeans and trainers, mounted one of the others with ease. I moved over to what was obviously going to be my stool, the one in the middle, and sort of reversed at it. I placed one foot on the bar at the bottom and very gently lifted myself into place. Very good, said Nikki encouragingly. You're beginning to get the hang of sitting down in a skirt at least. I didn't see anything that time. Well done Steve, said Anita, encouragingly. She passed me my coffee, which I moved into position, but felt too nervous to pick up just yet. Nikki sat herself on the 3rd stool, and began looking into the plastic bag of jewelry. What we'll need first, she began, is these. She produced a small card from the bag. A nice pair of earrings. Oh yes, exclaimed Anita enthusiastically. Oh God, not earrings. I groaned. Why shouldn't you have earrings? Asked Anita. I shook my head. I'll look silly in them. No you won't, you'll look sweet, responded Anita immediately. Yeah, agreed Nikki. I've even sorted out some screw-on ones for you, so you don't have to have your ears pierced. She sounded genuinely offended. Let's have a look, said Anita leaning across the front of me. Nikki handed her the card. Oh, they're lovely. They'll really suit you, Steve. I looked at them. They were small enough, but on the gold-colored metal were embossed two pink love hearts, not dissimilar to the one on the front of the knickers I was wearing. You can have a fancier pair for the final, added Nikki, perhaps assuming my lack of enthusiasm was due to me thinking these were too plain. But I think these will be good with the school uniform. You've got special dispensation to wear jewelry, but it has to be modest, whatever that means. I'm not sure I know, said Anita. It's not as if you can be immodest with a pair of earrings, is it? She giggled at the thought. No, agreed Nikki, but I think it's best to keep them simple. Oh, I agree, said Anita. Come on then, let's see them on him. Okay, said Nikki. Turn this way a bit, Steve. I had almost unthinkingly been facing the object of all my desires, Anita, so, reluctantly, I swung myself around in the seat to face Nikki. She reached up to my ear and put the earring around the lobe, and began screwing some sort of attachment at the back. Suddenly I felt a stab of pain in my earlobe, ouch! I cried. Oh come on Steve, it doesn't hurt that much, said Nikki, unsympathetically. How do you know? It's my ear. I responded. I've wore this sort before I had my ears pierced. It doesn't hurt that much, so don't be a baby. They have to be quite tight anyway, Steve, explained Anita. Otherwise they might fall off, and you'd lose them. Quite right, agreed Nikki, turning the screw a couple of more times. My earlobe really ached from the pain. Let's do the other one now, she said. Reluctantly, I turned my head a little so she could get to the right ear. She carefully repeated the process, and, although I grimaced when it clasped my earlobe tight, at least I managed not to cry out this time. There, she said when she'd finished. Very nice. Turn around and show Anita. I shuffled around on my seat again and faced Anita. Oh Steve, they look gorgeous, she enthused, staring at my ears from close range. You've got nice delicate ears, and they show them off well. My earlobes were still throbbing. They're not very comfortable, I grumbled. Well, there's not much we can do about that, Anita told me. Unless you want to get your ears pierced. Well, it's an idea, said Nikki from behind me. No, I said firmly. Lots of boys do these days, went on Anita, warming to the idea. Well, I don't want to, I mumbled. Well, then you'll have to put up with these then, said Nikki, with a note of triumph. I pursed my lips a little. All right, I mumbled. Well, good, said Anita, still beaming, and staring right into my face. They do look sweet on you. I just hope we can find a fancy pair for the formal round as well. I think we can, said Nikki, with what sounded to me like menace. Right, turn around again, Steve, let's try some rings on you as well. Oh yes, Anita chimed in enthusiastically. I shuffled around in the chair again to face Nikki, who coughed. I'd straighten your skirt out a bit, Steve. You're showing your petticoat too much. I looked down and saw to my horror that she was right. The lace hem of the petticoat was hanging out well beyond the black hem of the skirt. I lifted my bottom and pulled the skirt down as quickly as I could. Very good, said Nikki, smiling. Done just like a lady. She and Anita both giggled at this. Right, let's see what we've got. She began scrambling in the bag. This might look all right, she said, and produced a small ring, with a pattern that matched the earrings I was wearing. Oh, that's nice, said Anita, leaning over to see. Gosh, Steve, you're having quite a theme with the love hearts, aren't you? Nikki took my left hand and slipped the ring onto my index finger. I grimaced as I looked down at it. It feels a bit loose, she declared, and lifted my hand off the surface to test. Yes, that won't do, it won't stay on. Try it on his middle finger then, suggested Anita. Well, all right, but I always wear it on that one, said Nikki. I can't imagine his hands are that much smaller than mine. Let's have a look, Anita said, leaning right across the front of me to get to my hand, which she took in hers. Oh, they are Nikki, she declared. Look, they're really dainty. Nikki peered at my hand as well. I suppose they are, she agreed. I hadn't really noticed before. No, me neither, went on Anita. But they are, look. Yes, said Nikki. They're tiny. Both of them began to giggle. Well, Steve, said Anita, apart from all your other feminine attributes, it turns out you've got girls' hands as well. Nikki and Anita burst out laughing. They're not that small, I complained. Oh, they are, Steve, asserted Anita. Look, she held her hand over mine, and to my dismay she was right. Hers was decidedly larger. But don't worry, she said, solicitously, it's good. Yeah, agreed Nikki. Quite often when you dress boys in drag their hands give them away. That's right, went on Anita. You certainly won't have that problem. And just imagine how sweet they'll look in nail varnish for the formal round, declared Nikki. Nail varnish? I groaned. Yes, of course, said Nikki. You'll have to have nail varnish for the final, silly. No girl would go to a formal event without it. No, agreed Anita, to add weight to the argument. They both looked extremely pleased with the paltry size of my hands, and didn't notice that I was blushing furiously about it. Well, let's see if we can get the ring on your middle finger anyway, said Nikki, after a pause. She took my hand again, and placed the ring on my middle finger this time. Oh, that's much better, exclaimed Anita. I looked at my hand, now adorned with a girl's ring, and another pink love heart. Even I had to admit that it looked like a girl's hand. It looks good, agreed Nikki. I quite like it on me, but I have to admit that on his delicate little fingers, it looks even better. Well, it's not a competition, said Anita, by way of solace to her friend. No, responded Nikki, thoughtfully. Just as well, really. I'm not sure I could compete with Steve on looking beautiful. Me neither, exclaimed Anita, enthusiastically, and smiling widely. Have you got any other rings for him? Well, to be honest, it's a bit of a problem, replied Nikki, looking through the bag. I didn't realize he'd be so tiny. Hang on, this one might do. She pulled out a bright pink plastic ring, decorated with sparkly bits. I wear this on my little finger sometimes, but I doubt if it would fit him there. Maybe not, but he could try it on his ring finger. I suppose so, Nikki acknowledged. She took hold of my right hand, and slipped it onto the targeted finger. Oh, that looks lovely, declared Anita immediately. Nice and simple, but still pretty. Yes, agreed Nikki. Well, that'll have to do. I haven't got anything else that would fit him. Well, never mind, said Anita. He looks good with those, and we are supposed to be modest with the jewelry, aren't we? Yes, acknowledged Nikki. Well, let's try a couple of bangles on him as well. She took a sip of her coffee, before looking into the bag again, and producing 3 or 4 metallic bangles. Lifting my arm, she slid them over the wrist. Oh God, he's got such tiny little wrists as well, she complained. I'm not sure they'll stay on. Let's have a look, said Anita, taking my arm to have a better look. Oh yes, you're right. What delicate little wrists you've got as well, Steve. Gosh, you've not just got girls' hands, you've got girls' arms as well. He's pretty much got girls' everything, added Nikki. I turned and glared at her. Well, you have, she went on. A girl's face, and girl's legs. Girl's shoulders, and goodness knows what else. I continued to glare as menacingly as I could. The only place you're a boy is down there, and you can't see that at the moment. Anyway, even if you could, it's all smothered in girly clothes. Well, it's not my fault, I exclaimed. Fault? She went on. Who said anything about fault? It's really good. Good? I stammered. Yeah, she went on. We set out to make you look like a girl, and we've done it. I think we should all be pleased with ourselves. I agree, chimed in Anita. And I think you're very brave letting us do it too. She beamed her gratitude at me, and some of my anger at Nikki's previous outburst subsided. She picked up her mug and took a sip of coffee, without taking her eyes from me. Well, I think we're more or less done with the school uniform round, she continued. We need to think about the final now. Yes, concurred Nikki. That and how to get his deportment and bearing a bit better. Yes, said Anita, still beaming. You look so natural in a skirt, but I can't say you sit or walk as if you're at home in one. In fact, looking so good probably makes it worse. Yes, agreed Nikki. You act as if it's your first time in a skirt. Well, it is, I pointed out. I told you I'd never worn one before. You've had a lifetime of practice in one, I haven't. Even if I wore one between now and the day of the contest, I wouldn't be as good as you at it. They both looked at me deep in thought, and there was an eerie silence for a moment. Well, that's an idea, said Nikki, eventually. Yes, agreed Anita. What? I asked, baffled. What you just suggested, she went on. It's a good idea. Yeah, agreed Nikki, enthusiastically. It's a fantastic idea. I didn't want to suggest it myself, because you didn't seem all that keen. No. And going to school might be a bit of a problem, I suppose, continued Anita. Well, we can work around that, Nikki said. I was deeply confused. What were they talking about? I couldn't remember having any particular ideas. What are you on about? I asked, as soon as I could get a word in edgeways. Anita looked at me quizzically. We're talking about what you suggested, she said baldly. You know, that you should wear a skirt between now and the contest. Yeah, agreed Nikki. I didn't suggest that. I stammered, horrified that they seemed to be taking this ridiculous notion so seriously. You did, exclaimed Anita. Didn't he, Nikki? Yes, she said forcefully. I heard him. They both stared at me, defiantly daring me to prove I hadn't made such a suggestion. Well, that's certainly not what I meant, I said. This did nothing to change their expressions. But it's such a good idea, Steve, Anita said, speaking quietly. We all knew you needed some practice, and to get as much as you can in is a brilliant idea. You'll be so natural as a girl that you'll stroll the contest, won't he, Nikki? Yes, she agreed. You already look much more like a girl than anybody else in the contest is likely to. More than most of the real girls in the audience, added Anita, nodding in agreement. The only thing that could possibly let you down is not acting the part, Nikki stated. That's where your idea comes in. So what did you have in mind, Steve? Asked Anita. Are you going to take this stuff home and wear it there? I thought you were worried about your mom and dad. I stared back at her. She was serious about this. I still am, I managed to stutter. There's no way I can wear girl stuff at home. Well, what about here? Anita volunteered. You can always come around here to dress up as a girl. It'd be fine. Or my place if you want. Or if you need a change, added Nikki. What on earth would we tell your parents? I asked, still not believing that they could be serious. Anita shrugged. We'll tell them you're a new girl at school who we're befriending if you like, she suggested. Or we could tell them the truth, they wouldn't mind, but I suspect you'd prefer them not to know. No, I said firmly, I wouldn't. Well then we'll tell them you're a girl. It'd be better anyway. You can have some practice at fooling people then.
Yeah,
said Nikki, obviously liking the idea. That would be really cool. If you could fool Anita's mom and dad, then acting like a girl at the contest will be a piece of cake. Please subscribe for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.